Hello and welcome to Watches Tonight. This is the 1916 Company. I am Tim Mosso. Garrett is on the switcher this evening. Edward already in the box. Glad to see you, my man. You are first and foremost in our hearts. This evening, a Zenith bracelet that costs more than the watch to which it is attached. We're also going to talk about Grand Seiko in 2025. We're chatting live, and I've got a jumbo helping of your viewer wrist shots tonight on Watches Tonight. We've got Smoko, Arto Charles from New York City, Soma R out of Europe, Jim Millett out of the UK, Enrique Cassiano, Takon Wong, we've got McLauder, we've got Moto Gunner, Rich Mitch, we've got Andrew T, we've got Frank M, we've got Cull Obsidian, Stephen R from Liverpool, staying up late with us. We got Mark S from Brooklyn, Ivar from Miami, and Phil from Park City, Utah. Guys, welcome Miko, welcome Carrie B, welcome to Perry P, and apparently Bob Dole from Monument, Colorado. Welcome to Bitcoin Diplomat, who's purportedly tuning in from Nigeria. Thank you for staying up late with us. We have Oliver G from SoCal, Aristocratic from Asheville, North Carolina. We have Field Walker and Eric Nielsen from Asheville, along with THX. Welcome, guys, and welcome, Dr. Kevin Moore. So, while we're warming up, do me a favor. Follow my Instagram, Tim_Mosso. There's always something new. It's updated many times per week and sometimes many times per day. You're going to want to take a look at what I've posted recently, because I am now doing the weight of watches, or wow, that's right, the weight of watches. All of those things you've wanted to know about. Full platinum Journes, the AP Brick, full platinum Rolex Daytonas. What do they weigh? Well, the weight of watches unmasks the truth. And it's a nice, quick 30 to 60 second shot. You get the answer with none of the fluff and all of the meat. What else is going on? Ivar, we've got Watches in the Wild joining from Schaffhausen, and Sandkalp staying up late in Frankfurt, Germany, the home of Zinn and the European financial capital, assuming we no longer consider Zurich to be thus. Derek D, London, and we got Andrew T. Welcome, guys. Okay. Viewer wrist shots number one. By the way, guys, this is going to be an extravaganza. Marcio M opens the show with his Patek Philippe Calatrava Pilot, travel time midsize from South Carolina. Danny Boy reminds us that the future of super high-end watch collecting is, wait for it, Thailand, with the Patek Philippe 5940 and the 5212A. And believe me, there are an incredible number of people in Thailand following my high-end watch posts on Instagram. Kenny, and, well, actually, first, no, wait, a good friend, we're going to keep this one anonymous, relaxes with his Alanco und Sonne Odysseus by Italy's Lake Como, just by the dial. I think that's the titanium model right there. It's a great shot and great light. Beautiful place to be. And the home of Moto Guzzi. Okay, now Kenny and his H. Moser and C. Venturer small second Ardoise dial. They're at the F1 Grand Prix of Miami, and what a way to take it in. Someone had a good seat. We have Jeff S., who impresses with the ultra-rare H. Moser and C. Streamliner Tourbillon Skeleton Rainbow. First one we've seen on the show, and maybe the first shot of that model in the wild. Dr. Ben shares a rare Jochen Benzinger Skelett, and also his Bentley Bentayga SUV. That's definitely a first for this particular combo. By the way, Benzinger for guilloche, skeletonization, and engraving, pretty much the state of the art and the best in the business these days. Eddie P greets us from Hong Kong with his AP code 1159 Star Wheel from atop the peak. We've got Giovanni V, who wears his white gold and last variant Rolex Yachtmaster 2 on something decidedly larger than a yacht in the Bahamas. I think he said this was Utopia of the Seas. Guys, once upon a time it was considered a big deal when an ocean liner had a swimming pool. Now cruise ships have a water park. And by the way, that is the last dial variant of the Yachtmaster 2 from 2017, the white gold model of that dial might be the rarest Yachtmaster 2 and definitely the most collectible. We've got Norm M, who dazzles with the Piaget Altiplano Ultimate Concept cobalt case blackened for effect, 2 millimeters thick, for $430,000, allegedly one of only two in the United States. And Tarek H shares his Rolex sub and a frankly terrifying view from the Burj Dubai, or I should say the Burj Al Khalifa. It was originally the Burj Dubai, and then the ruling family of Abu Dhabi paid to finish the building. And so when everyone in Dubai ran out of money to get this thing done, the folks from Abu Dhabi paid the rest, and thus this is the Burj Khalifa. Okay, Ken W. rolls on the Las Vegas Strip with his Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. Very, very cool. Guys, send your chats to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to your pieces on these pixels. And we have Thomas Oliver Price joining in, Dr. Stu, CEK Watch from Germany. Thank you for staying up late with us. HRM, 53,000 yen for the bracelet, I hope. Nope, guys, this is $53,000 for a bracelet that costs more than the watch to which it is attached. And it may be that we finally found a watch that exceeds the internet's capacity for hyperbole. We have Ashley K saying the new UN diver weighs less than a tennis ball, 57 grams. I think it's even less than that. I think it's 52, 53 grams for this new UN diver. But what really impressed me wasn't the mass of it. It was the fact that they said you could do anything with this watch. So I flat out asked, golf, guns, and tennis. The answer was yes. Very impressive. All right. And we got Field Walker along with Watch GWW. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining in. I'm glad you could spend some time with me. Let's see if we can hit 300 concurrent viewers. That's always the mark for me. That makes my week. Eric R. from Oahu and Stuart Mogul from Sacramento. If I mangled your name, Stuart, let me know. Tourbillon, who's not impressed by the tourbillon. Epic intro wrist shots. Think that Piaget takes the cake. That was my favorite, I got to admit. All right, the $53,000 accessory bracelet fit for an emperor. Let me be totally honest. I was surprised this week, and I'm rarely caught off guard by industry news. Moreover, it was news I knew before the public, so I should have been ready for this. But all the same, seeing it in text, online or off, was a bit of a deep impact. So some news carries more weight than others, and in this instance, that weight is platinum. 2025 is the 160th anniversary for Zenith, among the first fully integrated manufacturers created in Locle by Georges-Favre Jacot in 1865. It was built using the American model of a company that brought as many trades as possible under one roof and was set up for series production and standardization. This was a big deal at the time. And of course, 160 years means they're throwing a big party. I love Zenith, and I can say without reservation that of all the corporate brands at Watches and Wonders, Zenith had the warmest, quirkiest, and most historically grounded space at the show. This was made more so by the presence of Zenith's head of heritage, Laurence Bodenman, co-designer of the space we were in, and the world's foremost expert on the Zenith brand. You always like it when a brand has an in-house expert whose job is just being an expert and a curator. That's the sign that a brand has soul. And Zenith featured my favorite new watch. This was my favorite new watch of the year to date. The Georges-Favre Jacot, or G.F.J Chronometer. This is one hell of a watch, guys. 39 millimeters in platinum. It packs a dial of lapis lazuli with a blue mother of pearl small seconds subdial. There is a unique case and crown to add value. You can see these things are made just for this model. And the case is far from a standard dress watch. There's fluting, change of planes, differential finish. Even that crown is specific to this limited edition. The unique case and crown adds to the value, plus the vintage caliber 135 from the heyday of chronometry contests returns as a modern offering, and this is what it looks like now, with more power reserve, 40 becomes 72, hacking seconds, which the original didn't have, vastly upgraded decoration and finish, and a COSC Swiss chronometer certification. At $49,900, this is the best Patek Philippe Calatrava never made, and surprisingly reasonable in price given that every single piece, from the crown to the dial to the case to the movement, is going to be bespoke to the model and the 160 pieces that will be made of it. Zenith personnel were absolutely adamant at the show that the goal had been to deliver the watch at a retail price of less than $50,000, and at least initially it seemed mission accomplished. While everyone started panicking about tariffs roughly halfway through Watches and Wonders, it was clear that Zenith had at least intended for this watch to be fairly priced for what they deliver. But wait, there's more. At the time, I reported from the show about the Zenith novelties. There was this, and then there was a trilogy of blue ceramic chronographs. I had seen a rendering of the chronometer with a yet unannounced accessory. This was at the time of the show. A full custom bracelet. Oh yeah. Can we go full screen with that, or as close as full screen gets for this thing? All right. Here's where things go absolutely ballistic. And I mean ballistic. Full-blown Trident style. Nobody mentioned the bracelet's price or availability to me at the time, just that by the time the watch was delivered in November, you should be able to get it on the bracelet. I did get to view a very early rendering of the watch on the bracelet. I didn't mention it in my preview because we couldn't show a picture. But now, here's that bracelet again. And guys, the price. It's roughly $53,000, and it's bespoke to the model. That is, it was made only for this model, and all of those links are bespoke links. Look very carefully, and you can see the masonry motif at the outer edge of the dial is also echoed by the design of the links. And notice that they are perpendicular. The masonry runs both longitudinally and transversely on these intricately cut links. Moreover, the detail of the movement of this edition features the exact same motif and design. This may be the only instance I've ever encountered of a dial, movement, and bracelet designed as a matching set. It's profoundly cool and part of what makes this unique among all Zenith offerings, and frankly, among everything else on the market. And honestly, I think it is fantastic. Number one, this is the first Zenith in a long time that has people talking passionately and covetously about something other than a chronograph from the manufacturer in Locle. For the brand's well-being and future, this is essential and a real step forward. Second, the basic watch at $49,900 is well priced for what you get. Think about what it takes to tool up to make unique dials, movements, cases, and crowns, and you start to realize that, well, frankly, this is an understandable and acceptable ask. Third, for those who want something more exclusive than the 160-piece limited edition of the chronometer itself, there is that bracelet. Finally, with far fewer of the bracelets than watches likely to exist, each one so equipped becomes an instant collectible and an auction showpiece for events at Christie's and Sotheby's and the like 20 to 30 years down the line. Pricing for the bracelet is in line with what FP Journe charges for its accessory platinum bracelet, and I have it on very good account that Journe is now charging something like $63,800 to get the platinum bracelet. So considering that is over $10,000 more than Zenith's, and remember, this Zenith, because of the link design, is just for this model, whereas the Journe bracelet generally fits any Journe with a 20mm lug spacing. So this is a more exclusive bracelet than the one that Journe will sell you for over 10 grand more. Advantage, Zenith. I'm not saying don't get the Journe. I'm just saying Zenith is actually being reasonable right here. So, yes, 53 grand is absolutely nuts for jewelry, but this is a hobby of nuts, and this hobby is nuts. It's actually a good kind of nuts, and I like this watch with the bracelet. For once, it's a dress watch I would actually get on chainmail rather than a leather strap. Zenith, well done. I can't afford it, but I wish I could. Okay, let's see what's going on in the box tonight, guys. Help me hit 300 concurrent viewers. THX saying, I love the motif. We got Eric saying, the screenshot I just took is as close as I'll get to that epic Zenith bracelet. Mark S. agrees that bracelet is awesome. McLauder saying we need a nickname. I'm sure the Italians will provide one. In the watch industry, they always do. We got Jeff S. saying, I just bought a gold Zenith bracelet for my Rainbow Skeleton Dayfi Extreme. It cost $15,000. How is this one so much more? Because there are extremely more Dayfi Extremes than there are Journe-level. Plus, I will say this, platinum is a pain in the butt to make. Yes, the material itself costs less than gold. No, it isn't proportionally easier. It is a lot harder to make pieces out of platinum. I've been told from folks who are goldsmiths and jewelers that platinum is a beautiful material to finish, that is at the decoration stage, but forming it into components is the most difficult, frustrating, and tool-destroying exercise this side of tantalum. So if I had to guess, I'd say that's what's going on here. Plus, again, there are a lot more Dayfi Extremes than the COSC chronometers. Mike B joining in from Central Florida. Time Hill joining in a little bit late, that's okay. We got Moto Gunner saying that Zenith is absolutely phenomenal, stunning from Zenith, and I got to agree. We got Arto Charles, should we buy this Zenith new or used? I would say you risk not being able to buy it on the bracelet if you're only looking for it used. I would not be shocked if they don't sell more than like 24 of those. So if you really want it that way, get it new. And I understand you will have special access and VIP privileges with Zenith if you do buy it on the bracelet and you do buy that watch now. It is part of the full 160th anniversary boxed set. Initially, you're going to get the 3 blue ceramic chronographs, and then in November, you're going to get the rest of the boxed set, all the accessories, and the Journe-level chronometer. And that's how it's supposed to work. Michael A., also from Central Florida. And we got Philip S. saying the watch is a beauty. James Carrion, a great collector and connoisseur. Greetings, Tim, and happy Monday to all. We got Bill Walsh, a local boy from northern New Jersey, and Amit K. Tim, should I try for the Tank Aguiche, new or wait for it used? Well, look at what the 96, 97, and 2005 version of the Tank Aguiche cost now. If you want one of the general production versions, you might want to wait for pre-owned, but if you want the 200-piece limited edition, I'd say get it now because it's always going to be expensive and probably never cost less than what they're asking for it right now. So it's in the 60s. I don't think it'll ever cost less than the 60s. If you're looking for that off-centered, eccentric Tank Aguiche in platinum, buy now. Okay, Jean-Claude Beaver and JCB, my good man, Andrew T. Is it safe to play billiards with a mechanical watch on? I guess to some extent, it depends on which hand you use to shoot. If you're driving with your right hand and you're wearing on your left hand, you're probably fine. If your driving hand is somehow also the hand on which you wear the watch, probably not. Okay, John Atchison joining in from Wales. Viewer shots number 2, Wakar A. captures his IWC tribute to Paul Weber, my favorite modern IWC, while taking an IWC watchmaking class, both highly recommended. Franchier shares a natural shot that is in its natural environment of the Ulysse Nardin Diver Titanium at Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. Danny N. from the UK captures his Christopher Ward Bel Canto by classical English pastoral countryside. Kevin R. joins us from Norway, one of the happiest countries on earth, with his 1990s tritium-dialed JLC Master Memovox. We have Jim M. who greets us from Nayarit, Mexico, with his Sartori Biard SB04 with tantalum engraved center dial. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com to see your analog on this digital. Let's see how many people are watching. 245. Let's keep that curve moving upward. If you gotta jump away, get a snack, go to the bathroom, put the kids to bed, keep me streaming, help me hit 300 concurrent. Dr. Stu saying Gay Frere is alive and well, the famous bracelet maker. We have Norm M. What needs to be the next focus in watches is the case. Lug work, case side detail, etc. And I got to agree with that. That's absolutely true. What else is happening in our box? Joker saying upvote. I'm obliged. Chris Ray, Zenith has always been my favorite sleeper. You and me both. And that's really the next thing I need to add to my collection. I have another watch coming right now that is a very special, very personal, very individual statement. More on that when it arrives, but you know which Zenith watches I love. And by the way, the brand is never Zenith. In English-speaking markets, it's sometimes Zenith. If you want to get it absolutely right, and I don't always, Zenith. That's just how it goes. The three ways, one wrong, one okay, and then one preferred to pronounce the name of that brand. And Mita, welcome from Zurich, Switzerland. Thank you so much. Grand Seiko in 2025. I feel like we haven't said much about Grand Seiko lately. Let's fix that by starting with something extraordinary. Now, I was fortunate enough at Watches and Wonders to sit down with Joe Kirk, who knows more than anyone alive about Grand Seiko, a little bit like Laurence Bodenman at Zenith. Kirk is sort of the keeper of the flame, at least in English-speaking markets, where he is the ultimate guru for learning about the history of Grand Seiko. So we talked about some of these watches that day, and I recommend you go back to my Watches and Wonders deep dive with Joe to learn a little bit more about some of these watches individually, but I'm going to pick some of my favorites and discuss them on my terms right now. Check out the SLGB003. This will be available in June, so fairly soon, but it's not available now. It embodies a new timing standard for Grand Seiko, which is UFA, not to be confused with a Savage Combat Sport. UFA means ultra fine adjustment, and it's a play on the old VFA nomenclature that Grand Seiko used to use in the late 60s and through the 70s. So that's sort of where this idea came from, of having a watch with an extraordinary level of timing refinement, even compared to the high standard that Grand Seiko normally subscribes to. So let's break it down. Spring drive is this underlying technology. That's the root of it. And you can see spring drive UFA has a custom rotor so you know what you're looking at. It's a hybrid of electronic and mechanical watchmaking. So mechanical is employed for energy storage, a mainspring in a barrel, the driving force. There are no motors here. And the winding system, which is magic lever, which you can see quite easily. Notice how much traditional watchmaking there is inside this special caliber 9RB2. Wheels, pinions, jewels. You could see all of the things, the keyless works, the mainspring barrel, the date jumper, and the underlying mechanism for the power reserve. It's all there. A spring-driven governing wheel. Now let's take a little bit of a look at how all this comes together. So a mainspring in the barrel, that's the big circle, drives the governing wheel, which is in the upper right-hand corner. Note, it is not toothed. That is a governing wheel, not quite a wheel in the train. As it turns in a magnetic field, it generates an induced electrical current, and that produces electricity to activate the integrated circuit that you see up at the top of the picture. So the integrated circuit is the timing organ. There are no power capacitors or batteries in this movement. I cannot overemphasize, all the energy comes from the spring. That wheel, in turn, is geared to the hands. So what happens here is you have the barrel geared to a train that turns the wheel, that induces an electrical current, that in turn creates an electromagnetic braking force to slow down and govern the speed of the wheel, which in turn is geared to the seconds, the minutes, and the hours. So here we have a unidirectional wheel, no tick, no tock, no stop, no start, no stagger, allowing that perfectly smooth spring drive glide. And you could see the pawl-based magic lever winding system. It is even mechanically wound. If you've seen the IWC Peloton winding system, they were first with this, but in the late 50s, Seiko was probably the first mass market brand to adopt this type of pawl-based winding system, and you get it in spring drive. Previous spring drive systems were accurate to 15 seconds a month or 10 seconds a month in their higher state of tune. This UFA standard, in contrast, offers fidelity, that is accuracy, of no worse than 20 seconds variation per year. So about 1.67 seconds per month at worst. And let's be clear, almost no mechanical watch that you can buy for public consumption can equal that. The most accurate mechanical timepiece I've ever seen that you could buy was a factory regulated JLC master tourbillon that was submitted to a chronometry competition, and even that was off by over 40 seconds annualized. 20 seconds per year is nuts on something that is driven by a spring and mechanically operated. This is an amazing offering when you consider that your average quartz watch is 15 seconds a month, and this is 20 seconds a year. And it comes in a handsome GLB 003 with a dial inspired by snow and ice during Japanese winters in Shiojiri, Nagano Prefecture, where the spring drive watches are made. It's a very, look carefully focused, it's almost like magic eye. You need to look away from it and let your peripheral vision recognize the super subtle shade of blue on this dial, along with the texture and the detail. Grand Seiko dials are the best in the industry, within the mainstream luxury price bracket, and sometimes well beyond that, extensively handcrafted and always the product of many phases of fabrication. The case here measures 37 millimeters in titanium, which we can all love, 44 millimeters lug to lug, with a lovely contour and hand finishing, not machine finishing, hand finishing. While not expressly a sports watch, it does boast 100-meter water resistance, which makes it very sporty, and a reasonable price all up of $10,900. As a Datejust alternative, this is hard to ignore. Let's see what's going on right here. Question from Carrie B. What is the gauge beneath the rotor? Well, on the previous version of Spring Drive, the power reserve indicator was on the dial, and a lot of people didn't like that. So now the power reserve indicator is on the caseback, meaning this is also very quietly a complication. It's got a power reserve. Super special. Note the use of the Media Blast finish on the bridges. It is beautifully decorated with incredible access to details. And take a quick look at the upper right-hand corner. See that little plus minus? There is a quartz crystal trimmer in this system to adjust for the drift of a quartz crystal over decades. So this is built to last. Even though it's quartz, it is not disposable. A generational product. Guys, we're up to 280 concurrent viewers. Help me hit 300. Norm M asking, Tim, what about the Breguet that has the floating hairspring? Didn't that match the figures quoted? You're talking about the classique chronometrie? You're talking about classique chronometrie 7727? But that version is not something that was openly tested. So you're talking about a watch, the Breguet with magnetic balance pivots, that was submitted unofficially to the Concours de Chronometrie back in 2000, I want to say 13. And officially, the best result in the chronometry trial was the Grubel 4C double tourbillon 30 degree. Unofficially, it was the Breguet 7727. I believe that's the reference. But it didn't compete officially, so technically not scored. And then Mark S. saying, Tim, that is ice blue. And you're not wrong. What else is going on? Mark S. Tim, shock resistance of Spring Drive versus a 3230, like a Rolex or something like that. Basically the same. They make their own shock protection, just as Rolex makes its own shock protection. One thing that doesn't exist to get damaged is an anchor. There's no pawl, or I should say, there's no Swiss lever. So there's no escape wheel and there's no lever. Now, these are always delicate components on any Swiss watch or watch by anyone that has a lever escapement. So because you can't displace pawl jewels by accident or fracture something, maybe there's a little bit of an advantage, but I would not subject it to anything that I would not subject a 3200 Rolex caliber too. Maybe just a little bit. Okay, what else going on? John Aldris joining from Rifle, Colorado in the American Mountain West. JFS saying, just got the new Silver Panda Tentograph and it's fantastic. Jonathan B joining in from Tanzania. Very cool. You guys come to me from unusual places. Help me hit 300 concurrent viewers. Stay with me. Let's see, how many do we have now? We're almost there, guys. We're in the 280s. So, viewer wrist shots number 3. Josh P. from Ontario admires the cherry blossoms with his Rolex Explorer 2 Polar. Muhammad E. from Nairobi, Kenya admires his Doxa Sub Aquamarine and BMW 5 Series M Sport. Abdul R. gives us our second F1 sighting of the night with his Adidas Dive chronograph in Jeddah. We have Giancarlo P., who takes great pride in his new baby, which, to be clear, is the child, and his Rolex Submariner on a spring walk. JD and Amanda capture a his and hers shot with Longines and Rolex at Siona Cruise with the kids. Well done, guys. Send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com if you prefer vintage, or the1916company.com if you prefer modern. Grand Seiko in 2025. Here's 2 quickies. I like them. They're fun. So this fetching green machine is the SBGH 351 Rika for summer. We're talking about the micro seasons of Japan. And the blue SBGH 353 for Shunbun, or the autumn equinox. Both 40 millimeters in stainless steel, encased in the 1967 circa 62 GS case form. Both include the high beat caliber 9S85, so like an El Primero, 36,000 vibrations per hour, 55 hours of power reserve, fine adjustment to better than Swiss chronometer standards. Green and the blue each cost $7,200, so more like Omega pricing than Rolex here, plus it's a hell of a lot less common than any Aquaterra. So the next watch requires some explaining. Yes, and maybe a little bit of history as well. Many watch collectors were surprised in 2023 when Grand Seiko launched the SLGC 001, the Tentograph. While technically accomplished and impressive in every regard, the surprise here was that the watch was an unexpected milestone as the first Grand Seiko chronograph to use a purely mechanical movement. As hard as it is to believe, all Grand Seiko chronographs prior to this employed at least a spring drive fusion of mech and electronics. Joe Kirk of Grand Seiko explained this to me at greater length in that talk we had at Watches and Wonders. So in Switzerland, his sound logic was that previously, Grand Seiko always found that when it attached a mechanical movement to a chronograph mechanism, there was a loss of amplitude and the watch would slow. And so spring drive was used because spring drive had considerably more torque and it would not lose time with the chronograph engaged. So what happened here is the caliber 9SC5 was the key to making pure mechanical chronographs happen for Grand Seiko. This is based on the breakthrough 2020 caliber 9SA5, which had 2 barrels, a 3-day power reserve in this application, overcoil hairspring, double direct impulse escapement, full balance bridge with a free sprung balance, and the closest thing to Omega's coaxial that you can sell without catching patent flack. Look at that escapement, guys. Double impulse, direct and indirect. Look at that wheel. Look at that lever. Look at that direct impulse jewel on the base of the roller table. If that doesn't look a little bit like a very familiar Omega innovation by way of George Daniels, you haven't seen the Omega, guys. But it is officially its own thing, just as George Daniels' coaxial was his modification of the Charles Fasolt escapement from America in the 19th century. So we all borrow from each other in the world of watchmaking, from Fasolt to Daniels to Omega to Grand Seiko. Keep in mind, these things for patent purposes are different. But this year, Grand Seiko expands deeper into mechanical chronography with the beefy 43mm Tentograph SLGC 009 in titanium. Facets define this case, and this level of hand-finished nuance is a major component of Grand Seiko's pitch in support of an ambitious $16,400 retail price. I love the look of this thing and the mechanics. A unique tonneau form billed as Tokyo Lion in conjunction with the dial. is combined with a fluted and textured bronze dial aesthetic. And notice how the running seconds subdial is the same color, while the chronograph registers are differential. Attention to detail. As with Richard Mille tonneau designs, this cambered caseback helps to broaden the range of wrists that can comfortably wear this 50mm lug-to-lug titanium hardbox. And to that end, it is a hardbox, water-resistant to 200 meters. The SLGC 009 is a meaty, made-in-Japan retort to Audemars Piguet, rather than a rival to any particular Rolex or Omega. This isn't a mainstream watch in the same sense that a Royal Oak Offshore isn't a mainstream watch. They're sort of in that elevated class of playing to a small crowd who can appreciate them. And I can't really give AP credit for doing anything to justify its price premium over this Grand Seiko. Compare an equivalent 43mm AP Royal Oak Offshore chronograph right here. Okay, this is revealing. That is a Royal Oak Offshore chronograph, 43mm in titanium on a strap, a direct comparable to the Grand Seiko. And AP's monumental near $30,000 price premium over the Japanese watch just seems like hubris. Look at these facets and consider how much time was spent hand finishing these razor-like seams between planes, differential surfacing, polish and satin, and mirror finish, that is black polish by spinning tin plate on the mirrored surfaces of that case and bezel. Now consider that Grand Seiko dials are on a plane rarely equaled at its price points, extensively handmade, incredibly intricate, involved, and the amount of purely mechanical watchmaking assembled, lubricated, and regulated by hand inside the Grand Seiko is also to its credit vis-a-vis AP. With this bronze-dialed Tokyo Lion, Grand Seiko reminds us that in almost all instances, its price points are intended to reflect quality parity or qualitative parity with watches priced far higher, not those similar or lower in price. That's usually what they're doing. The confidence implicit in this pricing is that Grand Seiko is punching up, not punching down. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat box. Chris Ray saying, it's great to see Grand Seiko being so created. We have Le Bulldog. Are we really comparing AP and Grand Seiko? Yes. Michael Allen saying, I tried on the Grand Seiko Lion when they showed in New York City last week, but it felt too big for me. Very cool looking watch. James saying, prefer the first tentograph design. By far, just wish it were smaller. This is coming. We have Simon Holt. Oh my goodness, that brown tentograph tonneau is fabulous. I must have that somehow. We have some fans in the box. Mark S. Tim, should I try to meet up with you this Thursday at the talk? Please do. By the way, go to our website, register for our event this Thursday at the 1916 Company office in New York City, where I'll be chatting with our own Armin Johnston, my podcast partner, and Phil Toledano of Toledano and Chan. We're going to be talking about big mistakes, lesser mistakes, and the best things we ever did as watch collectors. So the right way, the wrong way, and the worst way to collect watches. Moto Gunner absolutely loved the new GS Tentograph. Steve 1010, greetings Tim. I like the Grand Seiko, wish they would improve the bracelets. For titanium, I'm definitely on board with you, and I agree. And Abdul R saying, I love the finish on Grand Seiko. All right, jumping back to our regularly scheduled program, we got some good stuff coming up here, guys. Viewer wrist shots number 4. Brian C. reminds us that Glasuta Original makes some fine German dive watches with his CQ. Paul F. has the courage to think differently and put his money where his mouth is with the Arnold & Son DSTB Deadbeat. John A. is the absolute man with tools from 20 years of working at Ford, plus Marathon Officers Mechanical. Robert L. gives us watches and wheels with his wife's Tesla Model Y and her Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41 from our 1916 Hyde Park location. And shout out to John Rodriguez from Hyde Park, 1916 in Newport Beach for hooking him up. Tack takes us home with the Louis Erard Alain Silberstein Le Semin from the UK. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at the 1916company.com to see your wrist on my list. Thank you so much. I hope to see all you guys this Thursday at our New York boutique for the talk. And thanks to Garrett once again as my co-pilot. Until next time, time out.